Hey everybody, Matt Michaels here with Sin City Steve and Bustle Larry on the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. This is our three count, but this week we are dedicating this show to what happened this week with the WWE and probably, uh, one of the more historic weeks in pro wrestling history, with the first time in the history of the Worldwide Wrestling Federation Entertainment Company not having a McMahon as part of the actual structure of the company. Um, Boy, there's a lot of shit that's going on. And it looks like we should have Travis join us here a little bit to kind of give us a little more insight and some observations. But, you know, the beginning of the week, what's interesting, I think, is that we get this big announcement at the stock market with The Rock joining TKO. And that was kind of a surprising thing. You know, the whole thing is that he came on and no one really kind of expected to that he was going to be part of the company. It was kind of a surprise. So, um, you know, Steve, what were your thoughts when the week started? And here it is. TKO making some moves as a company to bring on Dwayne Johnson.
So I thought that it was obviously newsworthy. Somebody that will always and forever be synonymous with WWE and forever linked to WWE. I think that, this was a slam dunk. As soon as I saw this in the, at the start of the week, I thought, okay, this is going to be the start of something, a brand new chapter for WWE. Little did I know we would learn everything that we learned throughout the rest of the week as well. But I think that it's great because it does give crossover appeal to WWE, to TKO. You've got Dwayne Johnson, who is arguably one of the biggest actors in Hollywood, even still one of the most known people in the entertainment industry. Now on the board of directors at TKO, I think that this, we mentioned that the safest bet is sometimes the most logical bet. Well, yeah, it can be applied to the business world too, because this was a perfect fit in my opinion. And as we learned throughout the week, this was just the start of the change to WWE and TKO as a whole.
Rob, what do you see in terms of a guy like The Rock becoming part of this company?
Well,
Does
I
it?
wanna throw a thought out there, a notion. Remember when he cut that promo 2 weeks ago and he said, "Maybe I'll eat at the head of the table." Could this be what he was referring to? Because you're not going to just find this out overnight and just show up at the New York Stock Exchange and ring the opening bell.
Yeah.
They knew this. He knew this for a good time. With that said, does he have the administrative abilities to do this? To what capacity will they utilize him? But he doesn't need to be in a ring anymore, right?
No.
So he could be the face of a company, as I thought for many years he should have transitioned into that role and do more behind the scenes stuff. And yes, maybe he could play that Vince on-screen role eventually. We don't know. What I will say is he has curried good favor over the years with the McMahons. He is a household name. And I think he has enough ability and branding sense to know how to market a company in a very vague general sense. I wonder if he will go further down the road, or further down the pipeline with this, and subtract a bit from Hollywood in order to make himself a bigger fixture in the behind the scenes machine.
Do you think, though, that one of the reasons this is important is uh, the idea that having Dwayne Johnson as part of this company, um, is this something that really was facilitated by Ari Emanuel, Steve?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, but keep in mind the connections that Rock has to Nick Khan. Nick's sister was the creator and executive producer of Dwayne's show Young Rock.
Right.
So, obviously that's just scratching the surface on the level of connection that these guys have. I think that, whether it was Ari that made the call, and, Dwayne did, he was quoted as saying that Ari was building something that was game changing for the entire industry. So, obviously he praised him and made a point of praising him right out of the gate. So, of course, that leads to speculation that this was a very largely Ari Emanuel move.
Do you think, Rob, that brings, it's not necessarily the idea that it's going to bring anything to the WWE as much as it's going to bring possible entertainment deals with The Rock's production company?
Well, you're not going to do anything that's going to take you away from what's making you personally successful. Dwayne Johnson is in his 50s. A lot of the action stars right now are in their 70s and pushing 80, maybe. So he's still in the prime of his acting career. He doesn't necessarily need to do this. So he's not going to venture into something like this without some fiscal gain for him and whatever other business, entities that he has. So I don't know what the formal name is of his production company or anything like that. But yeah, this is an opportunity to take, to take people who might be an MMA fighter and then find a way to make them extras in your movies and vice versa, and build up your name, and just in the same way that like maybe you had like Adam Sandler taking all the old SNL guys and getting them into movies. You can now have Dwayne Johnson doing that.
Getting all the old SNL guys into movies?
Nah, yeah. You can have Dwayne Johnson doing that for people who are part of the Endeavor family. Whether
Chris
it
be... I was just going to say, Chris made a point here. The Rock is just using his popularity with anything that he can, market it into, just hoping something will stick.
Yep.
His wrestling was great. His movies are good. His football stuff hasn't moved me yet. Now this, I think he is just going with everything that is thrown his way, which is a good point. And is a very good capitalism move, right, Steve?
Without question. I mean, if ever you can exercise something within the realm of the law to gain favor with, casual fans, with the mass audience, why wouldn't you do it? And the thing that stands out, and we've talked about this, is that AEW's biggest mistake has been that they've catered almost exclusively to their hardcore fan base. WWE has been branching out and catering more to casual fans, even at the expense of losing or disenfranchising those hardcore fans. They're smart in that aspect because the casual market is so untapped. And just look at how things were 15, 20 years ago with television ratings, with merchandise, with all that kind of stuff that has gone. It hasn't left the overall marketplace. Those people haven't stopped buying things. Those people have stopped buying wrestling things.
This is great because Tony Khan needs 20,000 more fans to fill Wembley. And if they get disenfranchised by the WWE, there you go. We're going to have the highest attendance rating ever seen in Wembley Arena. We have cleared out all of Western London to make this happen. Thank you so much, Vince.
So, when you look at the overall structure of WWE, obviously this doesn't affect them. The only other thing it really does is, brings the idea of The Rock participating in the match against Roman Reigns more of a reality. And maybe he doesn't have to take as much pay on that at that point. But when you look at now the idea of the structure of the WWE and the idea that creatively it looks like Hunter's running the show, that's it. It looks like Nick Khan is pretty much in charge of the operations. Does that now kind of does it open the door for a fresh take on, I don't want to say a fresh take on, because the formula is there. We know what the formula is. That won't change. But does it open the door for a fresh take of seeing the potential of working relationships with other companies who might have stayed away because Vince's name was attached to the company start happening? Do you think that happens, Steve?
Definitely. Look at Slim Jim. Look at Slim Jim.
True.
As soon as the shit went down, they immediately said, "Okay, we're pulling our sponsorship." And quite frankly, getting WWE and TKO right where it matters in the wallet. As soon as they announced that, that Ari probably made a phone call to Vince saying, "You have to go. It's time. You are done." And then at that point, they probably did play the drop, that you made reference to in our last show, Rob.
You're fired.
There you go.
Fired. You're fired.
So, but they probably did that. And immediately after Vince issued the statement that he was gone and that he resigned, Slim Jim said, "Okay, we're back. Everything's right back as it was." So I think that you're going to see this is the start of more advertisers coming back to WWE and TKO that may have left at some point.
Did you inadvertently or purposely use the term "shit hit the fan"?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
It's quite interesting to see how this all kind of went down. Everything. Maybe Trump can get Vince a pardon. Wow, Chris Bay is a joke. Where did that come from? Wow, holy
That's
crap!
out of nowhere.
Javon Claire trying to stir up shit. But when you look at,
Wait, did you say CM Punk is a punk ass?
Yeah, CM Punk is a punk ass. So the resignation comes, but it also comes amongst this public, hearing, right? So you have all these details that have been coming out. When everything first came out, the suit happened, the settlement happened, right? And all these different allegations surrounding it and everything. There wasn't clarity on what exactly had been said or happened. Now you're starting to get an idea. Does it make it more of a situation that, does it shine a worse light on Vince, or does it shine a light on something that kind of got overshadowed? And that was
The
the
second.
fact that someone else is involved and multiple other people were involved in these actions. Rob?
This is nothing new. We knew Vince was a piece of shit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We
We've
knew
known
Vince
this
was a piece of
forever.
shit, but what about those around him? Particularly a UFC / WWE star who, it is now come out that he was involved in this.
Which one are they? And I apologize. Which one are we referring to?
Brock.
The only WWE / UFC star, which made it
yes.
very easy to disseminate.
No, but yeah, here's what I'll say about that. It's about Vince.
Yeah.
It's always going to be about Vince. And he has that track record. He's also at the end of his rope. He's very, very aged. We're not talking about Vince at age 50. We're talking about Vince at what is he, 75 now?
Yeah.
He could sit the rest of his life on a golf course doing jack shit. It doesn't matter. No one's really going to come for his money. The whole point of this.
Someone just did come for his money.
No, I mean in the. Yeah, I stand corrected. What I meant to say is it really doesn't matter at this point. There's not much you can do to him. He's had the life he's had. He's earned more than enough that he could absorb this.
Honestly, he should spend the rest of his life in a jail cell, but that's beside the point.
For multiple reasons, not just this. There's a laundry list.
Exactly.
There's a laundry list. And that's the thing. With a lot of these guys, I joke about Trump. Half the jokes I do on the stage are shit he's actually said, and people laugh and go, "Oh my God." No, that was a quote. That was a quote. It's the same thing with Vince,
Let it be said though, saying abhorrent shit and doing abhorrent shit are two totally different things.
Right. But the thing is with Vince McMahon is this should have, if we're going to nail him for his actions, that could have been done 20, 30, 35, 40 years ago.
Bro, he obviously, keep in mind, Attitude Era, Mr. McMahon. Everybody loved when he had Trish Stratus stripped down to her bra and panties and grovel and bark like a dog.
And then dumped a bucket of shit water on
Right, and exactly. Little did we know that he was probably reenacting some of the shit that he's done. Again,
and that's
some of the things that he's done behind closed doors.
Joni Laura, China, what she said was done to her behind the scenes, what she would find in her locker room.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that was wait.
That might have been different.
That was not Vince.
That wasn't Vince.
That wasn't Vince.
Granted, but that it's still the whole point was that
culture,
the company, that whole thing. If that guy was a knight in shining armor and a bastion of respect for women, that stuff's not happening in your company. I think, can we agree on that? That there was a lot of things done by him and allowed to exist.
Yes. It was a culture. It was a very bad culture for sure.
And
people just looked the other way when they should have, spoken up, done things.
Right. And so I'm not surprised that any of this happens. I'm not surprised that his wife doesn't want to be seen with him anymore. He's made his bed with who he was.
He doesn't have a wife anymore. That's the thing. They've separated for years.
Right. But she was asked about him a couple of years ago, leaving a function, and Linda wouldn't even mention his name. She was disgusted at even the thought of it. So that's the thing. Everyone's made their peace with who he was. At this point, I shrug my shoulders and not in deference to a victim, but the fact that you say to me, "Oh, Vince McMahon did what?" Okay. And by the way, Randy Orton's been accused of doing horrible things to people.
No, and every
there's a laundry list of wrestlers doing this.
Yeah, of course.
That era.
Yeah, well, not even in that era. This is a history of wrestling that even dates to the Me Too movement, and what came out because of the Me Too movement in the wrestling scene in general, including the independent wrestling scene. So the culture has always been boys being boys. This isn't just wrestling.
Not anymore, though.
This has always been locker rooms. You say not anymore, though.
I would hope that it's getting better, even if it's for the wrong reasons, that people are more afraid that, shit, I'm going to be sued or I can lose my business if I do this. It's not the right mindset to have, but...
Well, you do have to understand it's getting better, but one of the reasons it is getting better is because you are now looking at a company that is owned by a corporation. It's not a private entity.
Yep.
That's the question about AEW, right? This stuff that came out just a few weeks ago with AEW and the way that certain talent had apparently, allegedly, been treated by some of the male wrestlers.
I was about to say, it can't be Tony Khan. He does so much blow, I doubt he could get it up.
No, but he's got the biggest eyes I've ever seen when he has coke.
He's got to be like a super cuck in the corner just watching. Okay, Jesus. To the left. Give it to her harder. Damn it, I'm almost there. Just give me about 4 more hours. Tony, tell him what's going to be on tonight's event.
Did you say super cuck or super coke?
A little bit of A, a little bit of B. A lot of B, a lot of B.
But it is true. When you look at TNA is very rarely had any instances because when it was taken over by a corporation, it's a corporate structure now. Someone fucks around, you get fired. Yeah, and you're going to see that with TKO too. So
I'm happy with that.
Great. Yeah, absolutely.
Completely agreed.
And you're seeing it be policed now on the independents by people. That's the best you can do because of the fact that everything is smaller circles and not big companies. So that's a good thing.
Also, the one thing that's changed from that Attitude Era is the drug usage. You don't see guys roided out of their mind, and I don't necessarily miss it. I met the New Age Outlaws 15 years ago. They were both just ridiculously roided out of their minds. Billy Gunn was just a ball of like twitching muscles, and I don't.
Nothing changed there.
Right. So yeah. I'm surprised.
The more things change, the more they stay the same, Rob. Come on.
Yeah. But outside of that, though, all seriousness, am I necessarily looking for that out of every person who comes through into the ring? Could you have had a Kevin Owens 15 years ago? No, not mainstream. But you could have that be mainstream now and be okay, fine. I am not complaining. I don't complain about that stuff. Brian Cage is a midget. He's my size. I'm a little guy.
But that's a whole nother issue.
It is. It's a whole other thing. But
and you're bringing up steroids. Steroids. Listen,
that's part and parcel, though, with some of what goes on there. If you've got somebody who's already abusing drugs, a woman is just is a freaking accessory to them.
But steroids, as opposed to the usage of the painkillers and the coke and the alcohol, that stuff is more prevalent in terms of what was going on back then. And you can trace that all the way back through the 80s, mainly because of the fucking schedule that these guys were forced to run on. And I think now the difference is that you don't have the taxing demand. One of the good things about AEW is that people can go there and basically have only a couple days of work and really, rest their body a little bit more, so that you don't have to ingest all this stuff.
But you know who doesn't get to rest? Excalibur. He's still reading AEW promos for the next 3 years as we speak. They're recording it. They just keep him in a small little room just reading AEW promos nonstop.
Who? According to Brian Alvarez, the greatest announcer on the planet, Excalibur. And Steve, if you didn't hear that one,
I mean, so I wouldn't call him the greatest announcer on the planet. A lot of people love to hate him, but yeah, I mean, to each their own when it comes to announcers, for sure.
When I first watched AEW and my buddy was showing me All In for the first time, he goes, "They got this guy named Excalibur, and he tries to scream like he's Jim Ross, but we know he's just trying too hard." That's the way he was described.
He only screams because the mask is so tight. Steve, have you met Brian Cage? Is a question that came in.
Yes.
Absolutely. He was there. He was at the TNA show last week.
Correct.
And he is not that tall. I was shocked. He's like what, 5'10"?
Brian, yeah, somewhere around 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was not as tall as I expected, but yeah, he's built like a brick shit house for damn certain.
Oh yeah, completely.
Yeah. Some of us,
big dick,
are very very fond of Brian.
Yep.
I thought he seemed like a cool guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Every time that I've met him, he's been really cool.
Yeah, I mean, he could have just bolted out of there. He stayed and talked to people and engaged with the fans.
He also he lives here, so that's one of the reasons that he doesn't necessarily need to take off right away and stuff. He's actually one of the good guys that I like, at least. So Steve, when you think of Vince, do you think that what has basically come out, does this shine a light on someone who, I think the question is, this is someone who is getting all this focus and probably for good reasons, hopefully going to at least get some kind of trial at some point, but
we can only hope.
At the same time, one of the questions that this brings up is the defense will probably be something to the extent of this woman already basically had a settlement, and then the company was sold, and now there's more money in TKO, etc. That she's doing this for money, more so than anything else, which will then lead to the idea that she was a willing participant at some point, and at some point stop being a willing participant.
Correct.
Which becomes a very, very gray line, because
absolutely
you have to prove this.
Absolutely.
So the problem I have is that even if you are a willing participant, of course, when you want it to stop, it should stop. But
correct,
that is just normal circumstances. My problem is that even as a willing participant, Vince and anyone else who works for the company was doing this with an employee. And we all know, as people who have worked for companies before, that one of the things that you have to be very careful of is what you do with other employees
Mhm.
who work with you.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
even if you're a willing participant, which is great, once this once this person wants out, you have to stop the relationship or
Correct.
whatever is going on because of the fact that they are
Well,
an
saying
employee.
relationship is being generous. So just the
Yeah,
instant.
exactly. Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, quid pro quo relationships between two willing, participating adults. I think I don't think that we need to, as a society, get into the habit of policing those. Ultimately, I've seen the text messages that have come out, and if you haven't, I highly recommend seeking them out. They are definitely eye-opening for sure. The thing that I will mention is that regret is a completely different word than another word that starts with R. And I'm
Yep.
going to leave it at that. But the fact is, there's more to this story. I don't think that, really anybody who has followed WWE or the Vince McMahon character, or the Mr. McMahon character over the years, I doubt that many people were surprised when these allegations came out. And I'm more so speaking to the casual fans. When I say this, there's a lot. If you think that you know what has happened or some of the depravity that Vince is capable of, again, the text messages are pretty interesting.
This is going
Not
to be
safe
another
for
dark
work by
side
any
of the ring
means.
for certain.
It needs to be, yeah. Honestly, it should be a two-parter. Dark Side of the Ring could do 2 episodes on the McMahon saga, and it still probably wouldn't be enough. It's that in depth and that bad. The thing that goes without saying is, amidst all this, Ronda Rousey did put out a tweet on X that simply says Bruce Pritchard is basically Vince's avatar. If he's still around, Vince still has a hand in the business. Vince was still running things through Bruce when he was quote unquote gone before. And yeah, so that's where we go. I mean, I don't think that it stops with Vince. I think that the well has been poisoned. There are a lot of people that will need to face accountability for their actions. And if
I have
that
a
happens,
question
then
about
this truly won't be resolved.
I have a question about this. And they've done this before. They did it with Chris Benoit. At what point do you, if you're going to at all, just erase Vince McMahon?
They're
Can
they're
you,
already
can
in
you
the process of doing it.
Yeah. It's but the and the thing is that
can you separate him from the WWE? With time, anything is possible, but
well, so Chris Benoit is
different scenario.
separated. Well, but he's also separated in the mention of, as opposed to, you can't edit it out of the actual video and the history. They tried, and it just
No shit.
it doesn't work, right? So Vince will never go away in that sense. Uh, will Now that Vince McMahon does not have charge of the Hall of Fame, will Vince McMahon be in the Hall of Fame? Probably not. But the big thing here is you will avoid at all costs trying to attach a positive light on the guy. The easiest thing now for them to do that is, moving forward, there isn't another McMahon involved in the company itself. It's also kind of come out a little bit, possibly, whether it's true or not, that both Shane and Stephanie
Yeah.
not really fully understand what was going on. Shane Allegedly, one of the reasons he left when he
Yep.
did was because of the fact that he found out these things that Vince was doing and could possibly have also been encouraged by his father to be more like him.
Correct.
And Stephanie, again, was distanced enough from the situations that she was kind of kept in the dark as well. So, you know, there is no reason to put him in a positive light. What is interesting about this is that this coincides with other things that have been going on in very public light in terms of celebrity and uh, you know sexual escapades, shall we say, right? Um, this is interesting because it's a smaller community of fans, people who, wrestling has its base and it's a very small thing um, as compared to, stuff that's going on a bigger scale. Um, what's interesting is that we, as a society, tend to pick and choose who we defend and who we condemn,
Yep.
which is very interesting because in this case, you do not see very many people defending Vince McMahon. But in other cases of higher profile people, you see people who say, well, that person couldn't possibly have done that. Or if that person did do that, oh, come on, he's just boy being a boy. So it's interesting that if Vince was 10 years younger, would he have a public perception that would potentially allow him to kind of get a pass from majority of the people because of that fact that he appears younger and stronger? He's an older, weaker man right now, and it's really showing. Is that something that, again, the picking and choosing, because if you still look powerful and you still present yourself as someone who couldn't possibly be a person who is evil, how do you not get away with stuff like this? Is that fair? Anyone? We are doing a podcast, so anyone who
I think the only parallel, and it might seem like a really hokey, obvious one, very trite one, would be to compare him to Bill Cosby, because Bill Cosby is at a much older point in his life when all of the allegations came out. Vince McMahon, though, again, Cosby was like a sideswipe. Nobody saw coming. Whereas this has been like, again, this is
that's horrible.
Yeah. Nobody's
Cosby, of course, no one saw him coming because they were all knocking him out.
Yeah. But with we as a people, as a nation, we were kind of surprised. It was just like, whoa, what? Are you for real? Whereas this guy, you're not surprised. Now, the fact that he's as more elderly, well, he is elderly, it makes it easier to beat up on him. But he's got the resources for days. He's been transitioning out. At this stage in his life, I don't know if he was still going to hold a tight a rein as he could on the WWE product. Let's say this didn't come out and it rewind the clock 2 weeks or a week and a half, whatever. Would we be looking at Vince in such a serious light as such a key player. I'm just saying, I'm asking, would I look at Vince McMahon and go, he's the same level of Vince, at the same level of control and acumen that he had 20 years ago in the Attitude Era, or even 10 years ago? So, I mean, what he did was what he did. Am I beating up on him because he's a more vulnerable target at his age? I think you're just going after him because it's the times, not his age.
I don't think, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying beating up on him. What I'm saying, and Chris kind of,
Or is he more vulnerable now at this age?
But Chris says it here, maybe Trump or Epstein rather than Cosby. And the idea is, again, it's the picking and choosing, right? You know, that's the whole thing. It's you know, the idea that any of these people associated with any sexual misconduct are getting, you know, either condemned or getting reprise. You know, people are sometimes getting passes or getting second chances or third chances or fifth chances. But it isn't because this story was proven false or this person was wrongly accused or this happened or that happened or didn't happen or no, it's because we see this person in a different light. If you're bringing up Epstein and you bring in someone like Tom Hanks, how many people are going to believe that because it's Tom Hanks, right? Just because of his name and who you associate him as.
He's been in every conspiracy circle. His name comes up over and over and over again. Epstein's Island, ankle bracelets. He had a up and coming actor killed because the guy ratted him out. And I talk to these people, go, are you out of your mind? Now, the reality is, as in all things, could be true. Don't know. But he is America's household favorite guy. Vince never was.
No.
Vince never fucking was.
Oh, sure. But Vince also, don't forget, was a very strong, larger than life character. Vince McMahon was the first one to use "you're fired."
Yeah.
Someone else took that term and decided to make it into
I took the term and I made it great again.
Yeah, exactly. He becomes president. Vince goes down the rabbit hole, and you know his exposure.
Which, by the way, I want to tie that back into the Rock real quick. Dwayne Johnson has espoused ideas, put it out there, that he wants to run for office and be in some sort of higher office, Congress, Senate, whatever, maybe president. I would not be surprised one iota that this brings him a little bit closer to having better political ties and donations and money and people that are going to get him further along on that path.
Well, Chris just said, I wonder what The Rock has in his closet. And quite frankly,
I was thinking of that. I was saying that it wasn't even.
If we go back a few months, The Rock was someone who was being accused of things.
Yep.
Let's face it. The honest answer is that if you're someone who has power, who has influence, you probably have done something kind of shitty in your life. Let's be honest.
Pretty safe to bet.
Pretty safe bet. To the extreme or extent or continuation or whatever it is, who knows? Bam Bam made a great point too. Can we also say Linda doesn't get a pass on all this? There's no effing way she didn't know what the hell was going on. I think in some ways she probably didn't know the full extent of what was going on. But it is kind of a story going back to the early 90s that Linda basically said, I'm leaving your ass, because she found out about all the cheating and whatever else he was fucking doing.
But she would never have been part of Donald Trump's damn cabinet if she didn't play the game.
Exactly.
She would have never been part of the Attitude Era.
Anything. Yeah,
Anything.
exactly.
She is not a saint in any of this because she stayed where the money was.
Yep.
Let's be realistic. That's a whole nother
She
thing.
didn't want to rock the boat, which
Right.
is unfortunately the exact same reasoning that so many of these executives within WWE for years, that, you know, why have they known about this stuff, or have they known about this stuff? Of course, if you read the text messages, you know that Vince was showing photos, making offers, and trafficking, allegedly, this woman to production team members. And if he's doing that to them, higher up board members, members of Vince's inner circle, there ain't no way in hell you can tell me that they didn't know what was going on.
I apologize for not remembering the name. Who was the gentleman that was part of the development team for like the beginning for Vince McMahon that they just got rid of like a week ago?
The development team?
Not development team. He was like Vince's right-hand guy for WWE.
Well, you're talking about television production. You're talking about Kevin Dunn, right?
Kevin Dunn,
Yes.
He wasn't Vince's right-hand man or anything like that, but he was the television, he was the one who created.
There's a lot of things that are I'm just thinking about it because there's a lot of people are all leaving at the same time. A lot of things are all happening simultaneously.
Well, and it also coincides with the fact that Vince is no longer, he was no longer the active part in. So a guy like Kevin Dunn, who knows? I mean, no one's really ever brought his name up on anything that we know of, that we've heard of. But
I reached. I admit.
But more realistically, let's be honest. The honest answer is, if Vince McMahon and the WWE never go public in 2000, there's a chance that whatever was happening is 10 times as worse, because there is no accountability, there is no oversight, there's no board, there's nothing. It's a privately owned company then, which would have had to be taken down by someone from the inside. By selling the company, let's face it, I honestly think that the allegations were already in place. We all know that. He came back, quote unquote, to facilitate the sale. This was him being given the chance to make the money. It almost kind of a payoff, here's the money.
Parachute.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Get away from it. But again, being that it was so close still, by still having association, by still having stock. I mean, the guy just recently sold off most of his stock. Why? This is something that wasn't an overnight thing. This actually, I think, is bigger. Steve kind of said that. There's more to it. That
you think do you think it's just? I mean, we know
it's about to set off a powder gag.
Yeah, because there's got to be more where that came from.
Absolutely, and when you're trying to make a problem go away, and it's a cockroach. You have to really, really, really struggle to get that thing to die.
You know what I would imagine? It would be like a Superfly Snuka scenario. There's every possibility he could drop dead before this ever gets resolved.
Well, the thing is,
doesn't that whole situation seem a little bit more interesting now too? By the way,
yeah. Oh God.
Well,
in retrospect, that the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club segments that they did on TV, all this other kind of shit, it all is essentially a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this was all destined to happen, and it's just everything's happening all at once.
Well,
Nostra Vincent.
There's also that wonderful clip of Stephanie from somewhere in 2001 or 2002, whatever it was, where, she said, "Dad, you made me do all those things with all those people, and I went along and did it." I mean, but the if you think about the truth of the matter, again, listen. Again, you brought up The Rock. Not only is there probably skeletons in his closet, but there are skeletons in certain people's closets within that family that there is a lot of Snuka is part of that bloodline. And I'm just going to leave it with that word as being the key. There are certain people that the McMahon, he protected.
That was an episode of Dark Side of the Ring, where McMahon just came in there with a box of money and a suitcase. I mean, a suitcase full of money, and said, "Where we, make this go away."
Well,
that was like one of the first examples,
right? But it's bigger than just him. It's bigger than just Snuka. There's a whole bloodline.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. And that's that. Also, if you want to go and make it a little, interesting in terms of, we're talking about the behavior of Vince. Pat Patterson worked with him for years and years and years. And the truth of the matter is that we'll never know because he's not around anymore. And maybe he would have been able to feel freer to speak on it. But you go back and you listen to some of the commentary, he constantly would feed shit to JR and King to say on the sly about Pat being gay. And it was some horrific shit. If you go back and he would, he had no he had no boundaries when it came to fucking with people, especially people who were closest with him, which is interesting about Rhonda saying about Bruce. Honestly, I think that Rhonda is now off just a little bit. And that is, with Endeavor in place now, Vince isn't talking to Bruce and Bruce is executing. I do not think that that's very
I would hope that you're correct, but
and that's only because of the fact that the structure is now different, and especially now.
Keep in mind, I know that not to go off on a tangent. I know that we talked about how sudden, quote unquote, the sales talks happened, and then it was the Saudis, and then UFC, and everything just kind of came all to a head all at the same time.
You thought it was going to be the Saudis that was the problem,
but no. Ultimately, like what I'm saying is that came out of nowhere. That just happened very recently. Then the Netflix deal happens. Then The Rock gets named to the board. Now this happens. It's almost boom, 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 boom.
Right.
Like it's the timing is very, very interesting, to say the least.
And I'm going to say that, Steve, the one thing that I take issue with Meltzer, and that is this idea that Hunter didn't answer anything. Hunter should have been prepared, et cetera, et cetera. And Meltzer's going back and forth now with lawyers who say Hunter said exactly what you should say, and that's fucking nothing.
What is
If
he
nothing
going to
else,
say?
Just phrase it differently. I mean, saying that he didn't read the lawsuit, it's the biggest lawsuit in the history of your vertical, in the history of your sport, and it just so happens to involve your father-in-law. I highly doubt that he didn't read the lawsuit. He very easily could have said, "We have no comment at this time. We're going to focus on the event tonight and leave it at that." Not, "I didn't read it." I think that statement made him come off extremely, extremely badly.
I'm going to approach that differently. I'm going to approach it as he is absent-minded, because I can tell you myself, I'm insanely absent-minded. If you were to catch me, if you were to try to, catch me on my way from leaving my job to coming here and doing the show, my mind was on getting here. If the cop pulls me over and goes, "You know how fast you're going," I'm going, "What?" I'm not even thinking about that. This guy's probably thinking, I'm trying to get a Royal Rumble together. And then obviously, duh, this is your industry. This is your family. There's no way you wouldn't know. But at the same time, I'm just going to play devil's advocate and go, he's probably trying to do his best to just focus on the Rumble and focus on production. Devil's advocate.
And I'm gonna,
and
again,
I know it's ignorant and it's very naive.
It's not ignorant and naive. And the reason being is because, and I hate to say this, Steve, but it's true. The president of the United States literally had said for a number of different occasions that he never read shit, right? That's the president, right? So, and not taking sides or anything like that, just as a fact. I think, if anything, Hunter's not reading it. You know who's reading it to him? The lawyers. After they fucking go through everything, then Hunter gets briefed on, okay, this is what's going on. I don't think they're at the point in that short period of time that what they got through was presented to him and I think, honestly, the words "I didn't read it" are true, because I don't think he was ever going to read it, actually.
And that was a scrum, right? That was the media scrum. So his mind
is press conference right after the Rumble.
I just fucking did a Royal Rumble that I was at the head of that whole thing. And now you're going to ask me about a whole nother story with volumes and layers like an onion. And I have to peel that back and give you a pure, brilliantly crafted statement to summarize this horrific story. There's no way
you had to know that he would be asked that, though. You had to know that he would be asked that. If you're going to give, and props to those members of the press that did actually have the balls to at least bring it up.
Sure.
I have no problems. I have no problems with that. And honestly, I would have had no problems if he would have phrased it differently. But
he has given
he is absolutely being grilled online. I think part of it is because Cody was asked the exact same thing earlier, and his answer was pristine. It is the exact answer that people should be looking for. Yet they're trying to compare his answer to Cody's.
Right, but there's a different.
There's a different power dynamic completely.
Yeah, exactly, and
completely
what
agree.
Cody says is only going to carry so much weight.
Right.
What Hunter says could be put into court of law.
Absolutely.
So by saying, like, I didn't read it, that I have even a bigger problem, that I don't mind the question being asked, but I mind some smug ass stupid motherfucker who goes online then and tries to say that, oh, well, you should have done this because blah, blah, blah. And then act like he is the fucking genius of pro wrestling, news reporting.
Yeah.
Because
we're talking about Meltzer here, right?
Yeah.
Just making fucking sure.
Dave, by the way, they're all named Dave. That's like a thing. You have to be Dave.
But it is a very, again, it's like that motherfucker makes his money by saying shit like this.
Yeah.
And putting himself over. And then when you have a lawyer saying, no, he said what he should have said, which is absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
No matter how you phrase it. You just say fucking nothing.
Can I do? But I want you to jump in. I say one thing about this. It's not even what he said; is how he said it. Triple H can be a smug fuck. Paul Levesque can easily be a smug fuck. He did not look like he was coming off very smug at all. He looked like he wasn't prepared. It looked like his answer was genuine. His answer seemed pretty genuine. It's not the answer you wanted, and it wasn't what should have been said. But he also looked genuine.
Polished. Right. It wasn't.
He looked like he was exhausted. That by the time you see that, that's like pardon the pun. It's almost like giving birth. That's your second biggest show of the year. And now 5 minutes after that, I have to talk about this disaster that everybody else who's in our comments right now, they have the ability to sit there with no other entanglements and read and do their preparations. And this guy has to now give an answer. He has to answer for Vince McMahon on the heels of the biggest production night he'll have, second biggest he'll have all year.
And Steve, you said it, which I think is actually true to a different extent, and that is his father-in-law. We know that. Now, if it was, well, I mean, Cody, obviously, Cody, okay. You know, Vince, he's known him since he was a kid. But if it was Nick Khan, if it was, anyone else who is not related to the McMahon family, Hunter is the only person in that company who has any involvement with the McMahon name. And that's even questionable at this point because
Right.
Steph and him, there are huge rumors about
them
what's
being
actually going on with them.
Yep, exactly.
So it really, to also have that be someone who is your father-in-law. And I think that's what pisses me off about Meltzer, is because that's essentially what he's saying. Oh, don't give me the shit that you didn't know anything, because that's your dad-in-law, and you're not going to say anything. And it's like, Dave, if you were fucking in the middle of this shit right now, you would keep your goddamn mouth shut, because you would be scared shitless of losing your fucking house, your fucking family, everything.
No answer is ultimately a good answer, because if he says the trite response of "I cannot comment on this," that is going to sound even worse if you think about it. If I say to you, "I'm sorry, I cannot comment on these situations right now as the case is currently unfolding," you're going to be like, "Wow, that was the most dickish response that you could have ever given." If you say, "I didn't read this yet," that almost means I don't have an opinion because I don't know anything about it yet. I don't know enough about it because I'm trying to run this fucking company right now.
And you also have to be careful. And in normal circumstances, you have to be very cautious on what you say. But in these circumstances, let's remember one thing. Hunter started off as a wrestler. He was running by the side of Shawn, which is probably one of the most dirty, low-down places you could have been around, Razor and Shawn in
no shit.
mid-90s. He's been around that. He then, is with Stephanie. So he's also one of the boys, but also then becoming groomed to be corporate. And his ambitions, of course, were always because of the fact that he loves wrestling and knows so much about what should be done. He wanted to move up that ladder and become someone who has this level job. The question becomes, how much does Hunter know that maybe the average board member or production team members wouldn't know, because of the fact that Hunter was a boy? He was one of the guys. How much do you, because again, there's a code, man. I'll tell you, I know shit that I will never fucking breathe a fucking word about, because that's the code. Is it illegal shit? No. But is it stuff that I would, not want to fucking tell anyone? Yeah, because I respect that other person. And I'm sure that Hunter has been put in horrible positions over the years because of the fact that, he's probably encountered shit that he knows. There's one person that I think out of all of this, probably, if you actually have a trial and want to know anything about anything that went on in the locker room, you're calling Mark Calloway to the stand right
Yep.
away.
Absolutely.
There's one guy that fucking knows
He knew
everything.
everything. He knew
It's
where all the bodies
big.
were buried.
Yep. And that's the thing. I think, you got to remember that there are guys who absolutely, man, if this shit goes to trial, if there's certain things
Yep.
that you start unearthing, there are guys who, if they get called to the stand, are going to be damning to not necessarily the accounts of what happened, but the character of what was going on.
Yep.
Can be proven that, yeah, there were things going on. And I'm sorry, Your Honor, I might not have made the right decisions in stepping in and stopping this. But I can truthfully say that there were things that were allowed to happen that should not have probably been allowed to happen.
Yep.
May I ask a question on this? And this is my ignorance to. There's so many elements of this. I didn't even get a chance to go through it all. That's how I didn't know the Brock Lesnar thing. I skimmed this at a very superficial level. Because I've got bouncing around doing a lot of stuff for myself. A lot of tour dates coming up. But seriously, as time goes by, there is one horrible advantage of him being older is the people involved in all of this are dying off.
Yep.
The people who have intimate knowledge, you mentioned it with Pat Patterson, the people who have intimate knowledge that can fill in all these puzzle pieces are gone. So do you put more pressure on the remaining few you have left who probably know even less? The longer this goes on, the less reliable the accounts are by both parties. Because you would need a third party to verify in certain, if it's at all possible, to verify. This is how Trump gets away with a lot of the crap he gets away with, because it's a he said, she said. Sure. And right now he's famous. And right now he's the former president or is going in as the president. So fuck it, Whereas in this scenario, you might be there, or you might have a lot of other witnesses and people involved. You had Ghislaine Maxwell for Jeffrey Epstein trafficking the girls. There were a lot of people trafficking the women and running all the talent relations and running the locker room. They have a separate woman who manages the women's side of it. Did they have that 25 years ago in the Attitude Era? Don't know. I don't know. I know with the Flight from Hell, they put a lot of that blame on Jim Ross because he was the wrestling talents relation guy. He was supposed to have been the one to corral all of the guys and keep them from getting drunk and, drugged up on the plane. Keep Ric Flair from, whipping it out in front of us.
When you're probably drunk yourself.
Right. And exactly. There was no way to expect somebody to corral all these people, right, let alone corral the guy at the top. So number one, how can you necessarily be held accountable to that if your entire livelihood is based on this guy, stroke of a pen? And number two, 30 years later, where do you begin? Where do you begin as far as verifying who's saying what and who's being accurate?
Well, and that's the whole thing. And the thing is that the key to this is that period. This whole thing, period, is based on the fact that there are text messages.
Yep.
If there were no text messages, he said, she said. There's fucking text messages. And as much as it's, we all know Vince, Vince is a scumbag. Period. It's always been that. Going back years, again, like I said, early 90s, it came out, Linda knew this shit, right? But what you didn't know is a guy like Lesnar participated. And that is to me, the key here is because Brock, his name, I'm not going to say that it hasn't been floated around, certain instances and things going on, but now it's fucking right out there. And that was these text messages. What else is there? What other text messages are there? Whose other names are going to come up? Because if there's more to this, there's more names. And that's why, that whole idea that powder keg, like you said, Steve, it's very possible.
What's done in the dark will be brought to the light, man.
And these texts that I'm rereading now, good God. If I were to make a spoof of this, I would write this. If you were to ask me to come up with the most vile thing to say, Jesus Christ, this is like right up there at all three holes. I'm like, oh Christ, who actually says that?
Right, exactly.
Who actually says that? Like,
and Bam Bam, says, I totally bet Cena. There is a very good chance the same as The Rock. Again, now,
and Orton, because Orton was the guy who was.
Now Orton would be someone who would be most likely associated, because a lot of Orton's stuff is closer associated to WWE.
I mean, he was just taking shits in bags. I mean, that's all.
Yeah.
But instead of on people's heads.
On the heads, right.
Wasn't that where he said you got to touch it to get initiated? And he was swinging it around and all that. I'm not even being facetious.
No, it's, yeah. But again, the association between what Vince did in that, it's two different levels. Okay, Vince is essentially sex trafficking a worker of the company.
Yep.
Orton is harassing people in the company. So there's a little bit of a
definite difference.
Now, Cena and The Rock, I would say if any other bigger names, Austin, Sean, these bigger names. Even
are we spitballing or
no, this is spitballing. This is absolutely spitballing, because the idea here is the bigger names are probably separated from.
So not Val Venus and The Godfather, which would be the obvious choices.
No, those are just characters, Rob.
I know.
Yeah.
They just play the character, just like you play Trump.
No, I know.
Trump. Unless, Rob.
Oh,
really, Rob says something funny. You gotta give him. It's been 2.5 hours, and Rob at least came up with something.
Oh my God.
I mean, even his shirt. Even his shirt is funnier than him.
He's playing Clue.
Again, I think like things that if the Rock has done certain things, I think that it probably is outside of the company. Cena, possibly the same scenario. That it doesn't have to be associated with Vince feeding them, right? If they've done anything, it's probably their own power structure that invited.
And I want to ask one name seriously, Shawn Michaels, because Shawn Michaels often would say something to the effect of, I've sold out a long time ago. He would say things that make you wonder, well, what is it that he did that made him feel bad or feel good? Because he said they used to boo him. He said, you sold out. He goes, baby, I sold out a long time ago. And I'm thinking, okay. But he said that there was a lot of like sting when he said that.
Well,
like
I don't know about Sting. He spent most of his time with WCW.
No. I was saying the Sting, but I said there was a lot of sting when the way he said it He looks like a guy who's just like, I'm here for the ride now.
Well, Sean, so there absolutely is potential with Sean, but I think Sean is another one of those guys who Sean created shit on his own. He didn't need Vince to
Yeah.
traffic shit to
Yeah,
him.
exactly.
Well,
Maybe Sean
that's the question.
participated in something in Vince's room or something like that. Possibly, who knows?
If
But
you're Vince McMahon and you've got a roster of guys that you know are into a lot of shit on their own, you've got leverage over them forever. You've got leverage over them forever, and vice versa. So who is of that roster that you named? Who among them would come out and go, well, first things first, I harassed this woman, and this woman, and I threatened this.
And that's why the Undertaker.
Mhm.
If you are a lawyer and this is going to trial, the one person you call to put on your fucking stand is Mark.
Mark
Because Mark
Calloway.
Calloway knows, like Steve said, exactly where the bodies are fucking buried.
He was parading around the Undertaker at all of those Endeavor meetings, even as recent as like a month or two ago. Everywhere Vince was, the Undertaker was in tow.
Okay, wait. I got to address this. American Bam Bam says cheating on your wife is different than sex trafficking.
Absolutely.
But if you have one of your talent getting fucked by every freaking guy in the locker room, that's
one of your talent.
Well, not talent, one of your employees. If you have one of the women, is what I'm saying.
I'm not catching the cheating on your wife is different than sex trafficking in terms of
I think he's trying to maybe downplay that maybe Vince is just cheating on his wife, but it looks like
I'll say that's what I don't. What is it? Being a piece of shit human is necessarily against the law. No, but if
then I'll find more friends and we'll tie you up so you're helpless. I mean, this is
directly from the text messages. Yeah.
I know, and I know you're not defending Vince by any means.
Right.
What we're trying to say here, though, is the idea of Vince using that office, that power to traffic it to a guy like Brock Lesnar. That's what I'm saying here. Listen, a lot of the guys are pieces of shit when it comes to moral decisions and ethical stuff. That's not the thing. But participating in willingly accepting the boss, forcing someone to do stuff, that's a little bit different.
Absolutely.
And of course you're not defending Vince by any means. I just need some kind of clarification because of the wife thing. Because cheating on your wife just happens to be something that is probably one of the more common things that is done in pro wrestling and is not a secret. So
I got another thing with this. I didn't even realize this myself. This is a way more recent than anything else he's done. So we're not talking about cheating on your wife at this point. The Linda thing is more. Linda wouldn't even be in the picture in this current scandal.
Allegedly.
Right, allegedly, but Linda's
allegedly. No, the only thing that Linda probably has any involvement in is essentially to some extent possibly knowing that something was going on, I would assume, but in terms of maybe not knowing the exact it's the same. It's the same thing again with Shane, with Stephanie. Knowing what's going on to full extent versus, catching wind of there are things that are happening probably different. But again, we don't know, man. This is all hearsay.
But this puts into light one of the interactions that the press had with Linda McMahon, which was about 2 years ago, where she was asked about Vince and retaking the company, and she wanted nothing to do with the conversation. I think she was leaving. She was leaving a meeting on Capitol Hill, I want to say, something to that effect. And she was like, "I don't want to talk about Vince. I'm done with that."
No, and because her and Vince had already been separated for
right, and a lot of this stuff is well after that point. So she might have been colloquially aware, but this could be just another day in the park for her. She's probably got a list.
Yeah, well, you don't know what where her park has been and what day it is. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, and a final thought, Bama says we might see Shane and Stephanie on the stand too. You know, absolutely. If any of this ever goes to trial, that's the other thing. Because we're not talking about right now any criminality going on.
It seems literally like more vulgar than anything.
Well, we're literally talking about what in the end will probably be another settlement. So let's be honest.
Yeah,
that's how everything ends nowadays, settling. So all right, final thoughts, Steve.
All right, guys. Hey, thank you for hanging out with us all night tonight. The interaction and the the back and forth, the banter, the discussion's been great in the chat. So thank you guys for everything. We appreciate each and every one of you. Also, very special shout out and thank you to all the brave men and women serving this country, whether you're doing it on lands, foreign or domestic. Thank you for doing what you do so that we can do what we love to do. And last but not least, repsports.com, reppsports.com. Go there for all your pre-workout, weight loss, and general energy needs. Again, that's repsports.com. Use promo code Vegas at checkout. They've got a lot of stuff, man. They've got a lot of stuff.
This is pathetic. I got to work on that.
Hey, man. I guess, Rob, I got a promo code for you, bro. Repsports.com. Use promo code Vegas at checkout, dude. Save yourself 15%.
And I'm so glad you just admitted you're pathetic.
Well, see, I could say it about myself. I'm allowed to go. That's my word.
There you go.
That's our word. You can't use it.
Yeah, you own it because you're what? Pathetic. You're one of those.
I can be. It's called self-deprecation. I'm allowed to make fun of myself. You know, because then it becomes a hate crime, and then I'm going to have to sue you and get you fired from TKO.
Shit.
All right. Well, you go ahead and you go ahead and self-deprecate yourself while you explain your final thought.
My final thought is never have an unhealthy relationship with Jade Cargill. It's a one-way relationship. It will never give you what you want in life. But if she does want to head scissors with me, you can find me at BOCE Comedy and reach out to me right there. I will be performing.
Is that Bach Comedy?
Yeah. That's right. I'll try to do my jokes right from the no, we're not doing that.
Right from the box.
Right from the box.
Boxicelli.
Yeah. But you get to see Donald Trump and
silly.
I never saw any pictures, by the way. Excuse me, your president's talking. I never saw any hot pictures sent by Vince McMahon. In fact, I don't even know who Vince McMahon is. I've never met him before. Not familiar with the guy. He doesn't seem. I don't know anyone with a pencil drawn mustache. I don't know him. But I am a WWE original. This is true. Their best champion ever. But I don't know anybody by the name of Vince McMahon. No. So yeah, you could see me, and I will be in Henderson, Carlin Martin's on Sunday night at 7 for First Class Comedy.
Awesome. There you go. Awesome. All right, and hopefully, looks like DJ Impact will be back next week. So control of the show can continue to redevelop, and we can.
So if he comes back, will your internet connection cut out 5 times a segment? You were good tonight. You only cut out once, so I'm very proud of you.
Yeah. You were worse.
Yeah.
Well, I was going pretty far.
Yeah, nice job with that.
I was worse tonight for certain. But dedication. Right. I was in the scene. I don't know what the scene was, but I was live from the Camaro.
Woo!
Yeah. So your dead handcation definitely is something that I'm sure you got from your Cargill workouts.
I was reporting underneath an airport about my dedication and love for Jade Cargill, who will be the WWE Women's Champion by the time WrestleMania hits, if I have anything to do with it.
So, anyone, if you're underneath an airport, stay away because Rob is cardoning Gil.
No. But no, it was really fun. I enjoy coming here each week and getting to be with you guys.
I'm sure you enjoy coming here. You sick bastard.
Excuse me. Hands are above the table, sir. Hands are above the...
Yeah, but look what's below.
Hello.
You got a webcam I don't know about. And I mean, shit.
You haven't found that feed on the internet yet? And it's every single one of us has it's the show, and you can hear what we're saying, but it's only our crotches.
Oh wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, they need two webcams.
It's actually the more popular feed.
Yep. Jesus Christ. This kind of talk is like Vince McMahon and a
no shit.
We didn't learn a goddamn thing.
We got a lot smaller audience when DJ Impact went away. Once he comes back, it's going to get huge.
Did he joke this much before I came here?
No. No, he was just blatantly anti AEW and was just so focused on trashing that product that he wasn't focused on making funnies.
Oh, okay.
So at least you brought the funny back to the show.
Did we see that cage match where people were getting rewarded for getting
we'll talk about that shit elsewhere, man. Like we got
that made no goddamn sense.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
I didn't know what the fuck. He got knocked out of the ring into a table.
It did.
He won.
It did. It did.
What? What the?
It made no sense, but.
Well, it's kind of like Rob's comedy act. All right, everybody. See you next week.